All right, so I had fun recording the previous one, and I thought this is kind of like a cool format to just speak about design, speak about problem solving, speak about systems design and technology and building a career in tech. And I don't know, I'm still winging it. But yeah, I'm gonna try this format more. And today I wanted to talk about something that I see a lot come in social media. I see this come a lot also in design discussions and design career discussions, which is developer handoff. And I mean, I kind of like just wanted to come here and explain that what people think developer handoff is not really what it is. And I'm just gonna go as far as saying that developer handoff is not really a thing in the tech industry, or at least it's not a thing in the sophisticated blue chip tech or big tech or hot tech type of industry. And the reason why it's not a thing, it's because the way that we collaborate at this type of companies, it's completely different than what people think it's happening, right? It's way more intuitively that most people will think it is. And I just kind of want to show that here and explain very briefly why developer handoff is something that we shouldn't be talking about. Perhaps it's something that we should deprecate as a term in this industry. So, all right. So what people think developer handoff is, like, at least this is the idea that I get roughly from hearing people around talking about it, is apparently designers are gonna go and design something, and then when they're done with that design, let's say they get that design, comes up for that design, then they start documenting that design, and they start saying like, okay, here's a component, we're using this component, we're using these colors, we're using these things, we're using this layout. There's also this concept of outlining the design. So many of you perhaps have heard about redlining, which is that idea of the patterns of a design, or documenting margins by design, or just like trying to create these like a very squared approach towards where the elements go in the layout. So yeah, that's more or less what redlining is. And then there's this idea of the handoff of the design, which essentially what that means is that popular belief around tech industry is that once you're with the design and once you have it documented and once you have it outlined, then you give it to a developer, and the developer is gonna consume that as a spec, and then they're gonna be like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm gonna build that. And I mean, that's more or less true, but I mean, developers are not a robot that it's gonna take an input and then just create code as an output. They're not deterministic machines. They create deterministic machines, but they're not deterministic machines. They are collaborators who are creative, who have quirks, who have thoughts, who like understand strategic aspects of the business. So it's not about giving someone something to build and then just giving them all the standards and specs on how to build it. Like, that's ridiculous. And if anyone tells you that that's how software is built, then yeah, they don't know what they're talking about. So what developer handoff really is just the idea of designing, sharing designs, and discussing designs. And that's what developer handoff really is. But I even want to go beyond saying that, like, I'm saying this is developer handoff just for educating. But this is not developer handoff. This is just day-to-day collaboration that just makes sense when you're building sophisticated tech products and when you're building software. And the reason why this makes sense is because everyone has different views and perspectives on what's going on in the business. So it only makes sense that when you're building software, everyone who is involved in that process has a say, and it's gonna portray their perspectives in certain way, and they're gonna try to influence what's gonna happen with that product. So really what's going on here is that we're just discussing, we're just building, we're just coming together as a team and using all our learnings and all the context and all the understanding of the business to build what we think is right for the customer. And there's gonna be a lot of data analytics, there's gonna be research done that explains some insights, there's gonna be a lot of stuff it's gonna inform the process. But this is a highly intuitive social process. So really what's going on here is mostly about getting in a room together, in a virtual room or a physical room, and then trying to figure out how to move forward, and there's no process for that. You just need to be human, and that's how human build things. Okay, so another thing that I wanted to touch on is why people still talk about developer handoff. I mean, if what I'm saying is true, then there must be still a reason why people believe this is a thing. And I have given this a lot of thought, and I have come to the conclusion that it's just a very simple thing. There's just many type of development shops. There's many type of tech shops in the world, right? And there's one that actually benefits from this approach a little bit, which is when you're building a product and you don't have a design system, so there's no standards, there's nothing to delegate details to. And when you have an offshore development team, so maybe you have a team in India, you're working in San Francisco, and then the time zones are so crazy that it just doesn't make sense. It's hard to communicate, it's hard to go on synchronous communication channels. It just doesn't work. So you might need to over document with the hope that that's gonna fill the gaps in terms of understanding what we're building. But even in those cases, you might be a team who has an offshore development team and a design system, and then you can start delegating those discussions and those kind of ideas about what's the padding, what's the margin, what component are we gonna use. You can start delegating those things to the design system, because that's what the design system is supposed to do. So when I think about this, I mostly think that people that talk a lot about developer handoff, they're just thinking about situations where they have no access to their developers. They are really not collaborating with anyone. They are just being paid to create a design and give it to someone else. And in that context, yes, I mean, that makes sense, but that's like real good tech. It's not built that way. I mean, trust me, it's not built that way. So most people who are gonna build a meaningful career in design and in tech are gonna be exposed to other type of environments. So most people trend towards more in-house development, more design systems, more collaboration, more strategic thinking, more trying to please the customer with the right product. And I mean, that means that those ideas of documenting tactical little details just don't make sense, because there's already a lot of spaces, there's already a lot of mechanisms that fill those gaps in the communication, and it allows people to just focus on the strategic, and that's how you build good tech. All right, so finally, I really want this term to disappear from the industry. Maybe it's not gonna disappear, and I don't know who invented it. I think it had a role in the past. I don't think it has a role anymore. But here are some ideas. So first, let's stop teaching this as something that it's teachable. It's really not. This is just like a collaboration defect. The better we get at collaborating, the better we get at creating systems that enable collaboration, the less that we need to do this. Another thing that I will say is developer handoff is about developers. It's not about designers. So if you are in a situation where you need to talk with a developer about these tactical details, or you need to document those details, dude, just go and talk with the developer and ask him, what do you need me to document in order to unblock you? It's as simple as that. And I mean, finally, like, there might be some situations where you're working on an extremely pixel perfect environment product where you really need to get very close, low level to the tactical aspects of the design. And in those situations, maybe you still need to rely on these. But I mean, my suggestion here is maybe learn to code a little bit. It's not that hard to style a component. It's not that hard to style something, and it's gonna give you all that agency that you need over the final style. All right, so those are my thoughts on developer handoff. I hope that's helpful for people who are watching me. And yeah, these are fun. Hopefully I'll be making more of these soon. All right, bye.